Cool.
Cool. So I think we're live.
Okay.
Hi, Phil.
Hi, Siraj.
How are you doing?
I'm very good, thanks. How are you?
Good. So today's conversation is going to be about Phil's new book, which is the Mindmasters, the Book of Mantras, and it's just going to be an informal chat about his thoughts, what led him to write the book, and some of the unique features that have been included in this book, which is some really awesome illustrations, including nuggets of wisdom and mantras. So Phil, thanks for doing this, and really excited to have this conversation with you. And yeah, I just wanted to start off with, if you wanted to introduce yourself, a bit about your background, and then also what kind of inspired you to write this book.
Okay, well, nice to be involved in this discussion today. My background, well, born in the 80s, I'm a twin, I have several other siblings. In terms of career, let's just go over the last 10 years. I've worked for many different companies, varying from AOL to Huffington Post, Sony Pictures, Sony PlayStation, Lionsgate Films, Free Mobile, Telecoms Group, and now I work for a games company doing licensing and business development. The roles have been varied. I like to try different things, my hands at different things. And then with regards to the other background, I'm married, got a kid, and I'm all good on that front. In terms of the stuff with the book, the initial idea came to me about it's coming up to 3 years now. In fact, 4 years ago, I was in Brazil. I had taken a sabbatical and lived over there for 4 months with my wife. And whilst I was there, I was getting different ideas and ideas about characters. And it was just a nugget that was there at the time. But really, 3 years ago, it really picked up. I'd always been writing down different mantras that I'd been using since I was about 16. And I had a massive list of them. And I just thought to myself, if I was to ever give this to somebody, they'd never understand what these mantras mean, where they came from, and those kind of things. So I just started writing them down on my mobile phone whilst commuting to work. And then when I started, which was the beginning of January 2018, I think it's 2018 now, no, 2019, I just thought to myself, in fact, I bumped into a friend on the train and I said, I'm starting to write this book. And he said, oh, that's a great idea. And then 3 days later, I found out my wife was pregnant, and that gave me the real motivation to really push forward. I thought, well, if I'm gonna have a kid, should anything happen to me, I could pass this on, or she or he be able to read it, and there's something left of me behind, like a legacy thing or some sort. Well, not just that, I also thought these kind of mantras would be useful to anybody. So that's how I originally started. I just started writing them down, writing reasonings behind them. And then the idea to put characters into it and imagery was from two things. The first was from Brazil. When I was out there, I met these young artists who were designing different characters for an animation they were doing. And I thought of an animation with about samba stuff. And then I thought they all had different colors and all that, but I never got into it when I got back to the UK. And then I just thought, well, why can't I transplant that into this, put different characters who mean different things? And I felt, wealth, health, spirit or soul, and mentality are three key things to having a good, prosperous, and productive life. And so those were the four main characters that you can see in the book who comment on the different mantras. And then I thought, for me, the best process for me to learn anything is visually, like we do when we're children. So I thought, in children's book, you've got the words with an image. And I thought, why should that stop when we're adults? And sometimes an image is more powerful, it stays in your mind. So I just thought, why can't I do that? And I just thought about, stuff I like. I like comics, I like Marvel, DC, all that kind of stuff. And I thought, maybe I can add images to the book. And so from there, I went about writing the book at the same time, and then kind of writing down the ideas of what I want the images to look like. And then I used the site or the platform Fiverr to find an artist who would design the images for me and develop them for me and then produce them. And so he did that. I worked on some of them myself because I can actually do some art, but I'm not an expert. So some of them that he worked on for me, I edited myself, but the majority was done by him with my direction. And that was it. So the process all in all took about 20 months from January 2019 to publishing it, self-publishing it myself. And yeah, it was an amazing process. I learned a lot. There's things I'll do different next time. But yeah, that was it. And I just felt, you know, there's something, whatever, regardless of what the sales are, that I felt was positive, that I was putting that into the world, and I think might be helpful to other people. So yeah, that was it really. So here's a big monologue.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. I think, you know, in terms of the sort of dedication and commitment that it takes to follow through with some of these things, you know, from ideation all the way to sort of actually having completed a project, I think, you know, that speaks volumes for the individual, you know, you are yourself. In terms of the sort of picking up the pieces of your introduction of working in the gaming world and your trip to Brazil, have you always had that sort of ability to, or interest, I suppose, in characters and doodling and putting things together, or was that sort of something that was quite spontaneous?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've always had an interest in characters because I used to be an actor myself.
Right.
So I stopped acting it's coming up to 10 years now, but I'd acted in, you know, done extra work. I actually was prettier than what I am now. I was a model as well for a bit.
You still look good, Phil.
I'm trying. But yeah, I done acting, so I had to play different characters. But you know, you watch enough of the, you know, comic movies, and they're all various different characters, and I thought, you know, that appeals to me for this book. You know, in my life, I'd also played for a youth football team for Crystal Palace and done athletics. So I've done many different things, and I thought, well, you know, all those aspects are part of me. That can be reflected through, you know, characters I can create in this book. And that's basically where some of that came from, as well as the inspiration from my time in Brazil and my other experiences in my life. I feel that, you know, you can take anything from what happens in your life and use it to drive you to another direction or in a positive place, but they're all part of you, whatever experiences you go through, sorry. So that was basically it. I just felt like, how can I simplify it down and break it down to the number of characters that I think are most important to what I'm writing about, and that was it.
Fantastic. And you mentioned sort of mantras, and obviously this is the book of mantras. How do you define mantras yourself?
Well, to me, it's something that I can repeat to myself, and it stirs up an emotion or a feeling of some sort of action that I must take or something I must do. Whether that's an action like mentally to repeat something or do something positive, or to actually do something physically. And that was it. It's something that I feel is just positive influence and to help you on your journey in life to a positive place. That's how I look at mantras. And, you know, to me, you know, I wouldn't have said mantras when I first wrote my first one down when I was about 16. I wouldn't have called it mantras. I just called it my list at that time. It's only over time through reading a lot of self-development books myself that I feel, okay, they're kind of mantras that you can use in that sense. So yeah.
Yeah, interesting, great. And I think that really does play out in the book. You know, this fusion of self-development wisdom versus all the characters that you've introduced, and it makes it very easily and digestible, you know, content, even if you're just sort of going through. I mean, I think the visuals in there are fantastic, and the
Thank you.
are really, really insightful. Even though it's, you know, it may be, you know, certain things, at least personally for me, as I was going through it, you know, there's stuff that has been said in different ways before, but the idea of, you know, having these as sort of one-page visuals as reminders is tremendously powerful, because it's, you know,
yeah. I mean, no, you're 100% correct. I mean, you know, some of them are ones I've heard before, but then maybe my take on it and whatnot. But I just felt, as I said, the visual impact of the images is really, really strong. I mean, there's some, even though I wrote the book, some I remember more now because of the images over the words.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was part of the plan. And also I wanted to appeal to not just adults like us, but I wanted to appeal to teenagers and younger people as well through those images, because I can be, as a younger person, so many words in these books, I don't want to read it. But an image is just like, I completely understand that. So yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, and I guess that was as well one of my questions in terms of the target audience that you would like to reach, and so you think it's a younger audience. So is it sort of students, university students, school students, university students, or?
I'd say anyone from 13, maybe even younger upwards. I mean, the reason being, I have younger siblings, and I wanted them to be able to just look at it and think, oh, this is cool. Or I've got godchildren who, are teenagers, and I thought, if they can pick this up, and even if they don't read all the words, but they see the image and the image stays in their mind, that's cool. So I wanted to appeal to everybody from about 13 upwards. If I can get people younger, that's great as well. But I wanted it to be a book for every and anybody who has interest in those kind of things.
Yeah, fantastic. And so in terms of the characters itself, Phil, can we just have a sort of a brief overview of the various characters that you've developed?
Yeah. So
mentality maestro.
Yeah, the mentality maestro, in my sense, because long time I plan to use this IP to turn into other things like comics and animation. And the mentality, I just felt, well, that's probably the most important one to a certain extent, because your mentality really determines what you're doing in your life. If you have a positive mentality or negative, or if something happens, and how you react is all down to your mentality or your mental state. And it was also, I felt it was the most powerful one because it also reminded me of my mum. My mum was partly the influence behind behind Mentality Maestro, because my mum did a lot for me and my siblings as a single mum, and pushed us to be who we are. We're all, doing pretty well. So that was that one, and that's why, in the book I put, she can move stuff with her mind, because I felt like superhero powers, that's what your mentality can do. If you conceive something in your mind, and that is the seed to drive you to create something. Just like with the book, it came from my mind first, and then I had to develop it and push forward. And then the soul and the spirit, I feel that one was more about, that was something I learned about in my time in Brazil. Like, I felt very comfortable there. I felt at home and everything else. And it's also something I've learned over time, like being around certain people or certain environments, it kind of enriches you. There's certain things that bring you down or bring your spirit down, and certain things that bring you up. I always felt that when you're kind of in sync with your spirit and doing something which is aligned with your soul, you feel good about it. Whether that is, for me, it was writing a book, or when I was doing stuff like acting, I was enjoying it. Whereas, you can feel, for many people, when they're doing a particular job and then they hate it and it's kind of soul sapping, that was something I thought was important. Then the health Highlander, very important, because without your health, you can't really do too much. So it's important to have good health. That is probably the one I struggle with the most at times, especially in the pandemic. I put on some weight.
A lot of us, I think that's yeah. Many of us realized too late.
Yeah.
Because of that one.
So the health one I felt was important. And I made him an older character because I felt like, you can be much older and still look fantastic and great. I mean, for us, there's plenty of guys older than us who've got their 6 and 8 packs. And I figured, you can do that and still, be healthy and driving forward, etc. So that's something to aim for. And in the wealth wonder, that one was important because I felt like, you know, in the world we live in, obviously monetary wealth is important because it gives you options and choice. If you have money, it gives you, and enough, it gives you time to think and to do things and not to be worried about certain things. A lot of us get trapped in a situation where we don't have options, so we're stuck in a rut going around and around. But I also wanted it to be not just monetary wealth. Wealth can come in other forms, as I said, like with time. It can come with things as like friends or contacts, like a wealth of contacts who can help you and those kind of things. So that's why I added that one in. And those were the four main ones I felt I was comfortable with to go with for the book.
Yeah. And these sort of characters, they're all sort of within each one of us as individuals, and we can sort of use them as and when needed.
Correct. Yeah, that was the thing. I did realize when I was writing this that, you know, it can be considered similar to that film, Disney film Inside Out, when they had their like anger, disgust, and joy. But this was my take for this particular book and how I view my life and life around me. So that's what I used. So yeah. But they are definitely for everybody. I feel they're within everybody. Everyone has health, their own mentality, their spiritual feeling, and wealth, and etc. So yeah, I feel it's for everybody.
Fantastic. And so I guess moving on to the themes, right? So I think one of the first themes that comes into play is this idea around control and sort of the visual that you put on that one is fantastic. I'm going to see if I can just show it over here on screen. Like and it's, you know, it's this guy who's sort of sitting there playing, you know, his cards of life. It's, you know, I don't control all the cards I'm dealt with in life, but I can choose how to play them in the present and the future. And I think that's incredibly powerful, right? Because a lot of us inherently have this kind of need for control within us, and you know, this realization or mantra, as you put it, is, you know, we don't control all of them, right? I think we all learn that in our own way. But from your perspective, and sort of building on that, what's the key message there that you want to relate to?
Well, to me, the key point is that, you know, even though, you know, things happen to us in life that are way beyond our control, but it's more about how we react to those moments or events that take place in our life, and then what we do going forward. We choose the next action and how to go forward. And for me, this one was really important. That's why I put it as the first one, because you know, I didn't control where I was born, what I was going to look like, who my family was, but that's what I was given. Those are the cards I was given, and my skills or physical attributes and all that. But with those, I was able to, you know, make choices as to what I'm going to do next in my life. Even right now, every day we're making choices about what we're going to do, regardless of our circumstances. There's definitely been circumstances for me which I wish I didn't have or wasn't in at the time, but you know, I had to make a choice of where to go, and some of them have been good and some of them have been bad. I think one element that really played a big part in writing that one was my time in Brazil, because I realized how fortunate I was whilst I was there. Even though I did before, but it really hit home when I went to the favelas and you know, I saw actual families sleeping on the street, and there was me, my wife, you know, I'm doing quite well and I had time off work, and it just hit home like how fortunate I was just to be born where I was born in the UK, to be provided with certain things, you know. But there's other people in the world who will be just as smart or more intelligent than me, who may not have been born in that country, but I mean, may not be born in the same country as me, but they're born in another country and they didn't have those opportunities. But there are still some people who, even in those extreme circumstances, manage to turn it around. And I'm not saying that everyone can do it that way. Don't get me wrong. I just think, you know, we are dealt different cards, but not a lot of people are told, well, you know, you have been put in this position, there is a way around it. A lot of us are told, well, that's it, that's your lot. that's how it's going to be. And then a lot of people are just not aware that for whatever the circumstances, there may be other ways to get out. I think in some ways, it's partly to do with, especially in the West, how we're prescribed how our life should be, in a sense of you go to school, you go to work, you marry, blah, 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 career, mortgage, home, etc., work until 65 and then whatnot. You know, and I just felt, well, you know, a lot of other people haven't done that and they're living very fulfilling and different lives. And I just felt, you know, it's up to us to decide what actions we take with those cards we're given. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, you know, it's interesting that that sort of last sentence kind of triggered the sort of comparison, at least, of you know, living in the moment, living in the present versus, you know, planning and planning and preparing. And I think there's a sort of, one of the mantras is around sort of, if I fail to plan, you know, I plan to fail. And so I'm just curious to hear your perspective on how that sort of plays out between the, you know, the sort of living in the moment, living, you know, a pleasurable, content life, you know, being present, which is the gift, versus, you know, thinking about, you know, the future for my career, for my family, for my children, etc. How does that sort of balance out from your perspective?
My perspective, it's interesting. Naturally, I'm someone who always looks to the future. I guess I'm quite an optimistic person, and I like to think about sunny uplands in the future and where I'm going to be in this. But that helps to drive me to that direction. It may not happen. Sometimes it doesn't happen when I expect or when I want, or it doesn't happen at all. It may be a door closed that doesn't allow me that route. But the process is a learning process. And one of the things during all of this, my life, I've learned, well, I may be planning for something, but I have to enjoy the journey. I have to enjoy what I'm doing now to get to where I think is the right place. You know, so sometimes there is moments where it's just like, okay, I'm gonna go and do this. I'm not talking about anything crazy, like jump off a mountain, but you know, I want to enjoy this experience, kind of thing. You know, I try not to look too far in the past. I look to the past for the history to learn lessons, but not to as a thing to hold me back or hold my spirit down. I try to use it to you know, find a way forward. But it is, as you said, it can be a difficult balance, not thinking constantly about the future, because if you're thinking constantly about the future, are you actually enjoying what's going on in the present as well? And, you know, one of the things, when I've reached certain targets and goals, the feeling is not always as you expect it to be. Sometimes it's like, well, I've done it. Now what? You know, I mean, even when I wrote the book, when I completed it and published it, I was like, okay, I've done it now, so what next? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it was just like, in my mind, I was expecting a round of applause from everybody, but it was only going to be from me. So, you know, but when I look back at it, I actually enjoyed the process of going through the journey and in doing it and coming up with the ideas. So that was another lesson for me during this. So yeah, that's the stuff I've learned throughout my life. You know, try and keep the balance of enjoying what you're doing in the present, as well as keeping an eye on where you're going to as well for the future, which is generally, I think, for most people, a more positive place that they're thinking about.
Yeah, amazing. And I think you talk about as well about sort of regret in the book. I was wondering if you could just expand a little bit on that.
Yeah. So of course, there's things I've regretted in my life, but one that really stood out to me was when I was younger and I was playing for a youth team for Crystal Palace, and I was released, I think, at just before I turned 16, and the reasoning wasn't clear. They said I was kind of small, but obviously I'm not now. But at the time, I was offered trials for Fulham and Millwall, and I didn't go. I was so distraught from the Crystal Palace projection. I didn't go. I just thought there was something wrong with my game. And I look at it now, it's like, I probably should have gone. I mean, who would know where my life would have went had I gone or whatnot? But I also look at it now as, okay, that's a lesson from that. I don't want to have those kind of regrets again going forward in my life. I want to have positivity. So I've taken that and like, one, I don't want to have regrets. I want to live a full, fulfilling life and try different things that I have an interest in. But two, if an opportunity comes up and I have a setback, it doesn't mean it's the end. It means I can keep going and then maybe other opportunities to open the door and get where I'm going to. And, you know, if I'm honest, that's happening for me right now in my life. I mean, I've always wanted to, you know, even with writing a book, you know, it was something I wrote down when I was in my earlier 20s, like one day I'm going to write a book, and it happened in my late 30s. Or another dream of mine is to go and live and work abroad, which I'm about to go and do now. You know, and that's something that's been there for about coming up to 20 years. And, you know, these are things that I just think, well, you know, may have had a regret at the time, but that was partly because of the timescale I was putting on it. But from the regrets or the things that have happened in the past, it doesn't mean it's the end. So use that as a motivation to push forward on the things now, and it's okay, you know. Yeah. I think now I look at it like, I may not be a millionaire because I didn't become a footballer or something, but my life has been pretty good, and I've done many things that, you know, I couldn't imagine when I was 20 now. So yeah, it's all positive.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think, you know, the one of the things that I take away from that is that sort of ability to, from your stories, that ability to sort of, you know, take sort of an event which might not be as pleasant or enjoyable in the moment, but then, you know, sort of overcome it by just keeping on with new experiences. And I think,
yeah,
you know, fundamentally,
I guess it's like the example in the book where I've said about, you know, if you're a guy or a girl who's interested in a particular partner and you get rejected when you're younger, you know, at the time it feels so crushing, but you learn something and you move on and you meet someone else, you know, and it's all good. It's all good. You learn from that lesson at the time. So yeah.
In the moment, it's certainly not pleasant, but yeah, I think time does heal, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Excellent. Great. So I suppose in terms of just wrapping up, and in terms of key thoughts and key ideas that you feel that you'd like to sort of bring up from the book to share with viewers and audience members.
So I didn't quite hear the last bit. It went a bit muffled.
Yeah. So sort of any key thoughts or key insights from the book that you'd like to bring up and share.
Key insights and thoughts. I think the main thing is, you know, for me, what I want to express is trying to live a positive life and fulfilling life for people. You know, trying to help people, you know, become the best version of themselves. I think personally, it's a noble cause for all of us to try and strive for and to help each other in doing that. And that's what I wanted to do with the book. In terms of like golden nuggets, buy the book, read it, see what you think, and you know, just send me any comments either LinkedIn or any other channels as to where you think I should go with it next. I mean, I already started writing down mantras for volume 2, but yeah, generally speaking, you know, try to live a positive, fulfilling life. That's all I hope for people and I want for them. But yeah, there's many golden nuggets in the book. There's 52 different mantras, 52 images that apply to each one. And hopefully, you know, you'll find something and that applies to you think is good for you. And that's it.
Excellent. And where can people get the book, get hold of a copy?
It's on Amazon. You can order it on Amazon and various other book sites around the world, Barnes and Noble, Book Depository, etc. is available on all of those. So yeah, it shouldn't be a problem to find. Just type in the name and yeah, you'll be able to find a copy and order a copy.
Thank you very much, Phil, and thank you everyone for watching. Please do go to Amazon, as Phil says, and search Mindmasters and purchase your copy. You won't regret it. It's a very insightful book and very easy read with lots of nuggets of wisdom, as Phil points out. Thank you.
No, you're welcome.